Hi everyone. So this is a randomized repeat and count drill. This would be the progression from the first video, which is like a basic repeat and count. Now we're doing it in a randomized kind of way, with more advanced questions. And then there's a third part to this video, which is like very advanced repeat and count, which includes like using your voice and speaking in a visually descriptive way. So here we're not going to give full answers to these questions. We're just going to learn to maximize self-regulation, co-regulation, and word association. And if you want to know more about those things, there's a video to explain those concepts and why they're super important and essential in public speaking, especially when answering difficult questions on the fly. So here I'm using my Gemini to create a random um, list of questions and repeat count exercises. Here's the prompt that I use, so you can copy that and save that for later. And so let's get started. So here I'm going to use the statement repeat and a near far count. And the question is, what does your ideal neighborhood look like? So I would say, I'm going to tell you what my ideal neighborhood looks like. I'm going to tell you about two things. My neighborhood, but if I moved to my somewhere else, what that would look like. And so that's just a basic repeat and count. And I'll then give a full answer where I talk about what my ideal neighborhood looks like where I currently live and what it would look like if I lived in my dream country. All right, next one. So we're going to use the question repeat and using inside out. So what is the best way to spend a rainy Saturday afternoon? What is the best way to spend a rainy Saturday afternoon? I'm going to tell you about spending a rainy day inside versus spending a rainy day outside. There we go. All right, next one. So using clarifying two, small bit. How do you feel about the transition from traditional paper books to digital e-readers? Just to clarify, are you talking about like the little feelings that I've got or like the big feelings I've got about the erosion of books over time? There we go. And so that's more of a creative way to explain. Clarify in two. So I've sort of full fixated on measuring up the question and giving an answer. Let's do word with emotion logic. Oh, and something I'll just say if I didn't make it clear at the beginning, when you get these questions, you should pause the video, attempt to do this yourself, and then compare your answer to mine. And what you're measuring yourself on is how quickly and confidently you can do this. Bonus points if you can move your voice around so as to put some personality on the question and have your voice kind of emphasize what you mean. So if you're taking the question seriously, your voice should sound serious. And if you are trying to sound more jovial, jokingly, your voice should sort of have that kind of passion in there. All right, so let's do a word and an emotion logic count. If you had to choose between a high paying job you dislike and a low paying job that you love, which would you pick? Pick. I'm going to tell you about why I would pick a low paying job that I love, both for emotional reasons, but also for logical reasons. And that's using the word repeat and the emotion logic count. Right. Last one is statement. Using wrong right. So is it ever acceptable to break a promise to a friend? I think in some situations it is acceptable to break a promise to the friend, but I'm going to tell you the wrong way to go about it and the right way in which it's okay to break promises to friends. Here we go, and then I'll answer those questions. All right, let's do a more advanced thing. So I'm going to say go. I'm going to get another list of 5 questions. This time I'm going to give concise answers and not just measure up the question. So now I'm going to go to the next phase. So here we go, another list of 5 questions based on my prompt. And let's go ahead with the question repeat and the wrong right count. So question, should people be allowed to keep exotic animals as pets? Should people be allowed to keep exotic animals as pets? Let's talk about the wrong kind of animals that should be kept as pets and the right kind of animals that should be kept as pets. So I think the wrong kind of animals that people should keep would be ones that are a danger, not just to themselves, but others. So, for example, if you had, just hypothetically speaking, a dragon, I don't think even if dragons were real, you should be able to keep them because there's no way you're going to be able to control a dragon. It's just going to wreak havoc to a neighborhood or an entire civilization. But in a more realistic sense, I think animals like, say, um, a tiger. Tigers are so hard to contain. They're going to jump over domestic fences as soon as they see like a delicious looking dog. And so that's not only a danger to the owner, but to the community at large. Now, let's talk about the right kind of things that we're not allowed to keep as pets, but we ought to be able to keep. Little cute things like penguins. I reckon you should be able to apply for a penguin license. If you can show that you can look after a penguin, give it an Antarctic kind of environment and you can keep it happy and you're a responsible penguin owner, you should be able to have a penguin. That would be really, really cool. And penguins already live in my country of Australia. So we should be able to, if they're not endangered and they already like the habitat, we should be able to keep them. Albeit, just make sure that people are responsible. All right, there you go. So there's a concise answer to that question using question wrong and right. I'm going to try to keep my answers sort of playful and short. Next one, I'm going to use the word repeat and the small big count. Question. What are your thoughts on the impact of space exploration on everyday life? Everyday life. I'm going to tell you about the small ways that space exploration has affected us and then the big ways that it's affected us. So most space exploration has very, very little impact on our everyday lives. If you think about the fact that we have heaps and heaps of, well, we rarely go to the moon. And the moon is like a fun thing to learn about in school, and it's like an inspiring thing that humans can accomplish, great things if we work together and really put our minds to stuff. But like the fact that we've gone to the moon, we've brought back some rocks, doesn't have an enormous impact on everyday life. It's not like everyone's eating moon rocks or something like that. But on the other hand, going to space has had like life has never been the same in many ways because we've been to space. The fact that Earth is currently has something like 30,000 satellites, I could be wrong, but 30,000 satellites, in low Earth orbit around. That's the reason why planes can fly more safely because they've got access to GPS and weather conditions and radar, is the fact that we all have internet right now. The fact that we have the ability to basically connect every computer to every other computer, and things like AI and the internet and imagination sharing and information sharing is real. And so that's an example of the small and the big reasons why space travel has had a really meaningful impact on our life and why we should continue to explore space further. All right, next one. Clarify in two, near far. Question is, how has social media changed the way we maintain long distance friendships? Just to clarify, do you mean how social media has affected like my friendships or how it affects people's friendships all over the world? And so to say you meant like my friendships, like, okay, so this is how social media has affected my friendships. And I'll split this up into near and far. So I have a lot of friends who stay where I live in South Australia. And I also have lots of friends who I haven't seen in a long time, but who are nowhere near South Australia. They're all over the world. And social media has really helped me with both of those, like long distance friendships. So, for example, locally, I like that if I ever want to catch up with like a friend I had from high school that I haven't seen in a long time, that I can just message them. And that's a really cool thing on social media is that if I've forgotten their number, if they've changed their phone number, the fact that their profile or profiles on various social media things is there means that I can always invite them, reconnect with them, send them a message, and we can just start again where we left off, even if it's been a long time. But then social media is also really powerful for the long distance relationships. Like, for example, I've made a few friends where they were people who have been born and raised in, say, France, and they came to Australia, and we had a great friendship when they were over here, and now they've gone back to France. And if ever I want to go traveling to Europe, I can just message them and say, hey, I'm going to be there. Will you be around? And again, we can just pick up that friendship where it left off. And it's just a wonderful thing to be able to do without having to, like, again, if their numbers have changed or if there's some sort of barrier stopping me from calling them because it's like costly to call someone in France. Social media just makes that so much quicker, instantaneous, and it means that friendships can never be lost as long as you can find them on social media. Cool. All right, near, far, clarifying too. Next one, statement, inside, outside. We'll do, this will be the second to last one we do. So question, would you rather live in a high-rise city apartment or a remote cabin in the woods? I would definitely rather live in a high-rise apartment than some random place in the woods. Else, but here's why. I'm going to tell you about why the inside of an apartment and the outside of an apartment is better than a cabin in the woods. So, the inside of a high-rise apartment is incredible. It is modern. It isn't drafty. It's air conditioned controlled. And in the city, although it's hard to get fancy stuff like big tables or whatever into a high-rise apartment, with the advent of amazing lifts like double lift door technology, nothing is too big. You know, that can't fit in a high-rise apartment, that can't fit in like a regular house anywhere else. And then not only is the inside of a high-rise city apartment better, but the outside is better too. So I love going to my parents' apartment. It's a 34-story apartment in the city. And you step out onto the apartment and you have a 360-degree view of not only the city, but like kilometers and kilometers beyond the city. You can see the beach, you can see the hills. And the best thing is when it's like a thunderstorm, you can actually see thunder and lightning canvassing across the sky in beautiful chain lightning. That just makes the best videos and the best images. And I never get bored of looking at that far reaching view from a high rise apartment. On the other hand, I hate camping with passion. I hate the inside of cabins in the woods and I hate the outside of cabins in the woods. So on the inside of a cabin in the woods, it is not air conditioning controlled, and that's not livable in my opinion. So if it's freezing cold, you get sick, everything gets cold, and you just have to wear layers and layers, and that gets really uncomfortable to sleep in. Furthermore, the inside of a cabin is not spider controlled, whereas from 34 things up, like mosquitoes and spiders just don't reach that high. But in a cabin, they're literally everywhere. And the outside of a cabin is also bad. And so when you go to a cabin and you start exploring the outside, you can't see anything. You're just covered by like trees and stuff like that. And yeah, nature is nice, but eventually, you know, after like a day, a week, you get bored of that view because it's just the same old, same old. And then you're desperate to go home to your luxurious high-rise penthouse apartment. That was a fun one. All right, next one. This is the last one. So we're going to do word and then emotion logic. Question is it better to follow your heart or your head when making a major career change? Head or heart? I'm going to tell you why you need both your head and your heart to make something monumental like a career change. So, first of all, I think the heart comes first. And this happened to me many years ago where a friend of mine asked me, if you had $10 million, what would you do? And when money was no object and I didn't have to think about, you know, financial security and safety, my heart could just speak really loud and my brain could just shut up for a second. And my heart said, I want to pursue my love of public speaking. I'm going to create a YouTube channel. I want to create a series of workshops where I help people unlock communication, like their own voice to help them. And I want to join a community of like-minded people and I want to study this stuff, maybe get a PhD and like really delve into the depths of communication trends and science and the art and business of communicating well. And then what I realized was what I was doing as a career was not on the first page of that list of dream things. And I realized that you only get one life and you can't spend your life not pursuing the thing that makes you 11 out of 10 happy. And since making that change from a safe and stable career to what I really wanted to do, when I started, it made me 11 out of 10 happy. And ever since then, the number just gets bigger. Like 11 out of 10 is too small a number to talk about how happy just spending every day delving into the depths of communication makes me. And so any monumental career change must start from what were you born to do? What makes you emotionally happy and content? The other thing is the logic. And so I had a choice. Logically, I did not want to make this career change in the middle of COVID when things were really uncertain and my dream would instantly fail. Instead, I made it at a time like after COVID had like subsided, when I had enough money to give myself months and months to practice, to make sure my business had multiple opportunities to fail before I had to return to a safe and stable profession. And that's how I was able to use both logic and emotion to pursue a dream career. And I recommend you do something similar. All right, that's all 10 of our questions. Enjoy those activities. I'll see you at the next video.